Hi, this is Adam Kirschenheiter with Arrow KBs. Last time we talked, I explained how it is not an easy decision to become a beekeeper. But now, since you're still watching, I'm hoping that you said, hey, I'm ready to do this. What's next? Well, today we're going to talk about how to decide which hive to use. All right, so you're ready to become a beekeeper, and that's awesome. But you have a big decision before you even begin. The first big decision is, what type of hive do I want to keep bees in? Now, you don't have to limit yourself to just one hive, although when you're first starting out, one hive type is wise because there's a learning curve with every different type of hive that you choose. There are three that I'm going to talk about today. The three are the top bar hive, the various Langstroth hive configurations, and the Layens hive. The first one I'm going to talk about is the top bar hive, and that's how I started. I didn't have much money, and I was getting into a hobby that I wasn't sure if I'd be totally on board with it once I got started. So I wanted to have a low commitment. And top bar hives have a few good things going for them. First of all, with a top bar hive, you could easily make it yourself without having to buy anything from a professional supplier, which keeps costs down. Second of all, you can harvest honey without any special equipment needed. Third, you can start off a top bar hive with a package. So that's the cheapest way to order bees usually. So I started off with the top bar hive, and I did learn a few things that first year. Spoiler alert, my first year bees did not make it through winter. I had a top bar hive. There was a few little incidents, but I just think they didn't make it through because of my problems with treating with mites. And part of it was that it was a top bar hive because I had a screen bottom on my top bar hive, and a lot of the oxalic acid that I used didn't get to them. So that's a whole nother thing. But when you choose a top bar hive, the way it works is there's a little board, and underneath the board, they draw their own comb. Usually you have a little starter strip with a little wax on it, which I did for my first top bar hive. I actually made two of them because it's easy to make two when you're making them, but I really only had bees in one. And it's really kind of cool because you watch them build all the way down. It does have some challenges. While it's the cheapest, in my opinion, and it's one of the harder ways to keep bees because handling the top bars is very fragile and careful, right? So you're already doing something new that you're not used to, and like you can't turn them certain ways or you'll break the comb. There's some challenges in that way. I do have a workaround for that. If I ever do a video on Mr. K's improvement or Adam Kirschenheiter's improvement on the top bar hive, I'll do that where you put a wooden frame around your top bar so they draw within a frame. But it does have that challenge. The second challenge is if you're out to make a lot of honey, top bar hive doesn't seem to me nearly as productive as other types, right? So, and the third problem with the top bar hive is that you are going to have to start with a package because if you buy a nuke, they come already pre-built out on other types of frames. So it's hard to find any way that you can start a top bar nuke. So, I mean, you might be able to cut frames and do all this extra work, but for someone who's starting out, that would be a big challenge. But if you just want to see how you like it and you like building things in your garage, that might be the way to go. The second one is the Layens hive. Layens hives aren't very popular here in the United States. They're actually growing in popularity recently. So certain beekeepers online from Europe are introducing people to the Layens hive. Some people have made modifications to to other type of hive designs to make their frames more Layens sized. But Layens have a bigger frame. See, in beekeeping, we keep bees on frames. I generally run 10 frame hives, so you'll pull out a frame, you'll hold a frame. I'll put a picture in here of that. And then, well, with Layens, those frames are considerably deeper. I'll put in how tall they are in inches up here somewhere. But Layens hives, people really swear by them who keep them, say they're a very natural size for deeper drawn out frames, better for overwintering, some say. So there's a lot of proponents for Layens hives, but there are some drawbacks to Layens hives. Layens hives, one of the drawbacks is that it's not very standard in the United States. So first of all, if you're going to be starting with a Layens hive, you'd have to find someone around who sells a Layens nuke if you want to start your hive with a nuke. And I have never seen those around, so they might exist somewhere, but not in my area. No one's selling Layens nuke. Another drawback to the Layens hive is that Layens hives, the equipment for extracting honey in the United States, the standard size is the Langstroth. So you would actually have to buy a special extractor to extract the larger frames of a Layen hive. Now, if you're going to stay with Layens forever, that might work for you, but otherwise, it would be a big consideration. I probably will never switch over to Layens or keep any Layens frames because I don't have the equipment to extract the honey. The third problem with the Layens hive is selling nukes. So if you go to sell nukes, you have a limited consumer base. So beekeepers, when you get into it after a while, or let's say you make a split and you don't have the use for all of your bees, you'll be selling nukes after you've been doing it a while, and trying to find people who want to buy Layens nukes might be more difficult than the standard. The final configuration, very popular in the United States, is the Langstroth hive. The Langstroth hive was originally developed some time ago, over 100 years ago. I'll put the date up here somewhere, and by a man named Langstroth, and I think he was a pastor, not positive, but this hive uses frames that are a standard size in width, although the boxes can be varying heights. There are what we call deeps, mediums, and shallows, and they're called, the mediums and shallows are called supers, and sometimes you'll see a hive stacked up 6, 7 boxes tall. Because you're working all with the same size, you can stack boxes. It's a modular design, so it's actually very convenient to keep in Langstroth. Now, I do keep one specialty Langstroth hive. My wife has a long Langstroth that I built her, and that has 30 frames long, and you use boards to make it bigger or smaller called follower boards. That might be a solution for people who have trouble lifting things, because when you're keeping in Langstroth boxes, I keep 10 frame boxes, although they are available and it's becoming more popular in 8 frame. But a 10 frame box can weigh quite a bit. A 10 frame deep can weigh like 80 pounds, maybe more, and a 10 frame medium can weigh 55 pounds. So you have to be able to lift some weight when you're removing these boxes. So that's a consideration. But there's a lot of great sides to the Langstroth. One is I sell nukes, and I can sell my nukes. I can sell deep nukes, so 5 deep frames, or I can sell medium nukes, because a lot of people keep their all of their bees in all medium boxes these days. I was thinking of starting some medium nukes for those people who keep in all mediums, because that is growing in popularity. And also for harvesting honey, the medium, my extractor can fit 18 frames of medium, or so many less of the deeps. So like most of my honey is in mediums, but sometimes I'll have frames of deeps that I'm extracting. It's a pretty neat layout. In my opinion, I would go with the Langstroth. I started with the top bar, and I even tried catching swarms in top bar swarm traps that I made. And I would have nearby a Langstroth swarm trap and a top bar swarm trap in the Langstroth swarm trap. My Langstroth, I never captured a swarm in one of my top bar swarm traps. So, I suggest you could strongly consider the Langstroth configuration. You might want to choose to make that a long Langstroth hive. I'll put a link to a pretty good plans that I designed my Langstroth hive from. You can build the boxes yourself, which I do. Of the Langstroth boxes, I build all my bottom boards, I build all of my covers and inner covers all by myself. The frames are a little tricky. I did meet a man last summer who builds his own frames, which were fine. I think that maybe the commercially available ones have better joinery so that they come apart less. And it's a pretty easy way to go. Now that you've decided, then you have to decide, do you want to do plastic foundation or wax foundation? If you're asking me, I'm gonna suggest plastic foundation. It's cheap. Well, it's actually probably the same price, but it's easier to do plastic foundation. You don't have to have specialized equipment for running wire for wax foundation. I do run some honey in the comb frames in my mediums, and I don't do any foundation. I just put a little follower strip to get them started, and then I cut that comb, and then the next year I run off the same one, so I don't need that specialized wiring equipment. This gives you some things to think about before my next video. My next video, we're gonna talk about how you wanna get your bees. There's 3 ways to get your bees. One would be to order a package from a commercial distributor. And the second one is to order a nuke. And then I'll explain what that is next time. And the third way is you could try swarm trapping. I did catch over 20 swarms 2 years ago, and last year I caught 15 swarms, maybe 16 swarms. So that is one way, but it's a little bit less of a sure thing. This is AirOK. If you have any questions about these hive configurations, I'd be happy to let you know what I can. I don't really have the most experience with the Langstroth, but I know a little bit about all 3. Thank you.